Okay. All right. Welcome to another episode of Till the Dirt. This is the Shahs Rewatch. Today we're going to rock and roll with Kristen. Kristen, introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Kristen Rodriguez. I'm in Texas, and I am a longtime Bravo fan and also longtime Shaw's fan. And so now that a lot of the personalities that were on the shows have their own platforms elsewhere, so I'm also a fan in those avenues as well. So I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to actually engage with people that I've been watching and having my own opinions about for 10 plus years at this
Well, we're
point.
thrilled to have you, and I
Yeah.
hope that we don't let you down.
Oh, you won't. You don't. Never.
Okay, now I think we should kind of just get into it because there a lot went on in this episode.
Yeah.
Today we're going to talk about season 2, episode 2. What are you thinking so far? Have you watched? How big a Shaw's fan are you? Did you watch it all the way through? Have you watched it a couple of times? Are you rewatching it now because you're doing this? Give me an idea of what you're, how deep a fan are you?
So I started watching Shaw's at season two. So for whatever reason, when it was on season one, when it debuted, I missed that entirely. And so I would watch shows when I would run on the treadmill after work. And there was one day that I caught when they would do like a marathon where you watch back-to-back episodes or whatever on a Saturday or whatever they would do. And I caught Shaw's season two at that time. And so the interesting thing is I didn't get the character introductions or the introductions to all the people, the players in the game from season one. So
Hmm.
I jumped in at that moment. So what I was getting, because I was reflecting back to like what 2012 when it was on, where I was in my life, what I was doing, all of those things. And so what my perspective was in my late 20s, watching these people. So that's what got me hooked, which so I didn't need the introductions, the lead up. I was sort of finding out who these people were in the middle of their storylines or in the middle of the beginning of their
It
storylines.
sounds like you were hooked right
Yeah.
away. Now, how
Yeah.
far did you run that day on the treadmill?
Well, so I would run about 30 minutes at a time. So
Okay.
basically an
And
entire episode would get me through a run, pretty much.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And yeah, these crazy persons will keep you running, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's never a
Yeah.
dull moment.
Yeah.
Now are you a Bravo connoisseur? Are you like love all the Bravo shows? Is it reality TV? What gets your juices flowing?
I'm more into the below decks.
Okay.
Most of the housewives. There's some housewives franchises that I don't dabble in as much,
You give them
because
all a chance though.
I give them all a chance, and there are some that I have veered away from, but then come back to, depending
Okay.
on how the cast changed and all of that. But all of the fighting, sometimes it gets hard because it's so much fighting, and I miss the days of when it really was just naturally people enjoying being with each other, and it was a more organic, storylines and that
We were
type of
having the
thing.
same
Yeah,
conversation this week on Till the Dirt because it was, there's got to be more enjoyment. It just when there's
yeah.
all that fighting, it just seems like you people don't even like each other. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And
And
real friendships and relationships break down. So like when they did the on Peacock, when they started doing the girls' trips for the housewives, for instance, that's refreshing because it really was fun. There really was an element of fun to it for the Turks and
yeah,
Caicos
like
and
that's what the whole point of the show
yeah.
was. Listen, we're gonna for a couple of weeks, let's go get shit faced and have a good time. And they wrecked
Yes.
that too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? They
Yeah.
wrecked that too.
So
Um, but
but
as
yeah,
far
so
as this episode's concerned, we open up and Asa's they're having an extravagant feast at the
yeah,
parents' house.
yeah.
Now, I gotta say, I got a little bit of a bone to pick here.
Okay.
Um, when I came on the show, one of the first episodes or one of the first things that we shot, I go to Asa's house for dinner. They make me this real nice Persian feast.
Mhm.
And I could not tell you how many times I said thank you to her
Mhm. Yeah.
for having me over and having this, putting herself out and cooking this elaborate feast for me and still being camera ready because I know that that's all a big pain in the ass. And I like profusely thanked her to the point that I believe it was Mike, and I know it was one of the dudes that were on another because Mike wasn't there. I'm sorry, Mike wasn't there, but I know one of the guys that were on the crew
Like,
was like, yo, bro, stop.
um,
They ordered that an hour before you got here. You know what I mean?
oh,
So, like,
man.
yeah. So they got this feast and they put it in her pots and they put it in her pans and she made it. And like I said, it wasn't a fluid thing where everything's on camera. At any point in time, she could have been like, listen, bro, I
Oh,
didn't make it.
chill. I
It's all
didn't do
good.
this.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You know what I mean? But no,
Yeah. Yeah.
she ate those compliments up, dude. So when I see her in this feast, now I don't know because the parents made it. Maybe they
Right.
did make it. Maybe they did. But I look at it with a
So
grain of
you're
salt.
coming from the perspective of you've seen behind the veil that that wasn't as it seemed, right? And I'm
Yeah, like
coming
no,
from the
like
perspective of,
literally
yeah,
wasn't. Literally wasn't. Now
yeah,
again, this is her mother's house. Maybe her mother really is
yeah,
cooking some shit up. I don't want to, it's a mom. I don't want to say all I know. I could just speak from my experience. And my experience is, they brought that in 20 minutes before I got there. So again, it's just I might be jaded. I might have a different look at it, but so for me, I got to look at that scene with a grain of salt.
That's all. That's great because my note, because I have notes here, my note was, oh, that was really sweet to see that scene with her family because
Yeah, yeah,
I thought, oh, that's really nice that because she's this other persona or she wants to have this other persona, but then you see where she really comes from, right? And so I was like, oh, that's so nice. And the conversation with her parents and all of this. And, it was relatable to me because that's the kind of thing, people's parents would say, well, we love you, but wouldn't you consider doing this instead? Like,
yeah. And in their defense, sometimes a scene like that's going to be put together kind of last minute. And when they got to set up and they got to make the kitchen and everything look nice, it might be difficult to make food. Right?
yeah,
It might be difficult to
yeah,
really navigate the kitchen and make a real nice home cooked meal. So maybe it might be easier just to call up the local Persian place
yeah,
and get that food. I like that looked home cooked, but so did the one that
it
I
did.
fucking ate. So
It did,
you know what I
right?
mean?
They
So
showed it coming off the thing
yeah,
with the,
yeah.
with the
They did
golden
all that to
color.
me. They did all. We're gonna get to that episode
Yeah,
eventually, and I'm telling
yeah.
you to watch. They did all that shit to me too, dude. And I literally like
Oh,
the dude was like, "Yo, bro, stop." You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to trust me. We got that right before you came here, so
that's a good
just keeping that in
perspective.
mind. And it was a nice scene. It was a nice scene to see them together, and it was I don't know. I'm with the mother. I don't know what a Persian pop priestess is. I don't know,
Right.
if you could put that on a resume. I don't know
She
how
has
that
three
shakes out.
PhDs, Persian, what? Persian pop priestess.
Yeah, because she's three
That's
P. Yeah. All right,
what.
to each his own. From there we go to Lily's office,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I consider myself, I'm very uncouth, right? I definitely have a mouth like a truck driver. I'm not very civilized in many, many ways. I'm like the fourth or fifth picture on the Neanderthal chart. As man
Right.
starts to grow, I know that about myself. But this crotch juice is
Oh my
fucking
God.
disgusting, dude.
Thank you for saying
It's
that
fucking
every
gross, bro.
time.
It's
Every
gross.
time. And the way that they would even hold up the bikini bottom and talk about this and this and the thing, it was too much for me.
I would get out of the bikini
Too much.
business if I knew that
Yeah.
that was like a
Yes.
fucking, oh, that was so gross. If I
And
knew
then
that
the
that
fact
was
that
a
they had the conversation in front of the girl and then handed her the bikini and were like,
uh,
just put a new thing in it.
stop
I
it, you're
was
killing me, Kristen. You're
disgusted.
killing me. It's like
I
post
know
traumatic stress, man. That shit was so gross. And I
she
looked
was
like
so bruised.
And it looked like that was like, Monday. On Tuesday, they're talking about the same shit. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like all week long, if there's no cameras, we're talking about crotch juice and fucking.
Oh my God, Tommy.
Oh, I was fucking.
I wasn't gonna bring it up because it was good, like it made me cringe, but you brought it up, so I'm gonna say I'm with you.
Okay,
I'm
I'll
with
fall on
you.
that grenade, man. I will, because that shit was disgusting.
Totally.
And then we go right to what may be my favorite scene so far in the whole show, when my wife and her dad get together.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
great, man. I haven't
yes.
seen that guy in a minute. And he was like, I know he might not look spring and spry, but he was that was the best. Like, he started to go down, like it progressively got worse, right? But he looked great there. Great dad jokes, great
Oh,
one-liners. Like, you knew you were around a guy that was just nice. You know what I mean?
it
You
was
felt it.
so,
You felt it. You felt
yes.
it around him when he saw other people that he knew. You knew that he was filled with niceness and goodness. And the times that, my wife is, I think, wow, man, that guy, like,
You
he's
went
in
through
there
it, man.
somewhere. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah. So I love that was my favorite scene too. And it made me emotional because it made me emotional from the standpoint of knowing MJ's dynamic with, oh, by the way, at the time we're filming, it's a happy belated birthday shout out.
Thank you very
One and
much. We had a
only.
great weekend. Happy
So
birthday, wife. I
have to
know she
acknowledge
listens to
that.
this.
I can't not acknowledge that.
No, no.
So, because I was thinking several things. Number one, she has such a different dynamic with her mother, Vida, but then knowing that he's no longer here, Sam,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just seeing how that relationship and just how caring and how sweet and everything, you understand how she is the way she is. And I mean that she could very easily be
Rip your throat out, but she could
ripping
also
throat
say
out in
something
more like
incredibly sweet and kind.
right,
No,
right.
I
And
get it.
you can see how she's both of those things, right? And I was so grateful on her behalf that she had a parent that she could have a relationship like that with. So
And I
wish she
thought
could
that
love him too.
I really thought that production did a fantastic job of showing you that dichotomy, because
Yeah,
right now you've only seen her get ridiculed
yeah,
by her mother, right? And she's like, thank you, sir, may I have another? You know what I mean?
yeah,
And now you get to see that, the person that she really spent the most of her time with, the person
right.
that, if she really could in her life really emulate and say that I want to be something, we can only strive to things, right? We
Yeah,
might not get there,
yeah,
but I know that she strives to be like her dad. That's who she wants to be.
right.
And I hope my son turns out
And
to
you
be like
see
her
that,
father.
like you see it. So I really appreciate not even knowing, because I had seen um the finale and then of season one and then the season two where they have the really hard to watch family dinner with cousin Zebo, all of that. So then the next episode you see this moment and you're like, okay, this is good. At least she has.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that I really thought it was a touching scene, and it resonated with me a little bit more. Just like I said, it's just it was nice to see him again. It was nice to see him in good spirits. It was nice to see, because when I first met her, that's what our life consisted of. We fuck all week, and then on the weekends we go hang out with champs, and how she would dote over him, and like he was her whole life, and now she's that way with our son. It's just, circle of life, man. It's just the ways,
Yeah,
it's crazy how things work out.
yeah, so
Yeah.
awesome. My
And then
favorite.
from there we go to lunch with Reza and Lily, who
Oh,
I am not liking. I know my
I have
wife
a
does not
beef
like
with
Lily at
Reza.
all. I'm getting why.
Yeah.
I don't like the voice. It's grating on me. As you know, my voice, I have the voice of a hummingbird. It's like an angel kiss.
Yes,
You know what I
yes.
mean? It's just so I could pass judgment on the horrible voices, and
Mhm.
hers is like that drives me up a wall a little bit. Plus, I'm not used to seeing this Reza. This
Yeah,
Reza wants her approval. I've never seen him like that on the show with anybody else.
So though I have a question. So
genuinely want her to like approve of what he does and his friends, and I'm not used to seeing that.
I have a question that do you know if the decision to add her to the cast for season 2, was it because do you know what the background of that? Because it doesn't seem like
Yeah,
she any
they wanted
connection to
just what she is,
anybody.
which is a Persian Barbie doll. That's what they wanted.
And they needed someone to introduce her, and that was going to be Reza.
Yes, yes.
So,
And Reza and her kind of hit it off right away because she had some money,
yeah.
or at least the facade of it. I don't know. My wife will say a different story. So everything's allegedly, whatever. But I
Well,
know at face value, they hit it off. And but like I said, he's the one that brings her in, but right away you could kind of tell she doesn't like any of these people. You know what I mean? And it's not even her fault. You don't,
yeah, yeah,
if everyone's just getting shit faced all the time and you don't like that, you can't really pass judgment either way. You know what I mean? It's like, so, but I think they did a good job because she's got a mouth on her. You know what I mean? She's not going to be, but I don't know. I don't find her that attractive. It's not really my type. Teach their own, I guess. But she's that voice is kind of grades on me.
well, I wonder if that's her real voice, or the voice that she adapted as part of her persona,
Character,
right? Her
maybe,
character. Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe. I know she's very
So
judgmental. For all these Persians are very judgmental though. They really are. They talk about how they're not either. But I'm more fascinated from there. We get introduced to Jessica.
yes,
I was around when Jessica was in the picture, but I never met Jessica. Like that Belize trip when I show up and I surprise my wife, that's the surprise. But everybody that was expecting to walk through that door, they all thought it was going to be Jessica. And then that whole trip was like, oh, so like I never really got a chance to meet her. So this is kind of my first time actually meeting her. And she seems nice, but I do know that Persian Jew shit is a very big deal in Mike's house. Like he's saying everybody. I don't necessarily know if it's everybody. Like my wife's father and Vida, they didn't give a shit about who she got with, as long as she got with someone that made her happy. But I know in Mike's house, they definitely care whether or not they're going
yeah.
to be a Persian Jew.
And I mean, my note to myself, as a reminder for this discussion, is that whole interaction between them. I thought that was cute. I liked, it's nice that we got the introduction to her, but I don't remember where I got this information, if they put it up or they said it, but if that her family is associated with the Evian water company. Is
Fiji.
that right? Fiji water.
Fiji.
Fiji
Yeah,
water.
Fiji.
So she comes from, allegedly, or one might assume, she comes from a more
Well,
affluent
he says it.
background.
He
Oh,
says it
he
in
does
this
say it.
episode.
You're right. He
Yeah,
does.
he
That's
says
what
it.
it is. He does
And
say
that's the
it.
first I heard. I've heard shit
Yeah.
about the Fiji water. I
Yeah.
heard. I have, like,
Yeah.
out there in the ether,
Yeah.
but I never I didn't ever hear that she came from money. That was
Right.
not ever anything I heard. But if he's saying it, maybe it's true. I don't know. I don't know. But I thought that was weird too, to throw that kind of in there. Um, you know, uh, but
Maybe she's not after me for money, as if he had, an empire to stand on at the moment. But you know what I mean? Maybe it was maybe
absolutely,
from that standpoint
absolutely.
is why he thought he would throw it in there. I don't know. But my comment was lukewarm, or my perception was lukewarm of that whole interaction in the introduction.
But when he says, that we stick with our own, um, I think that's common. And it's not just
Mhm.
with the Iranis. I think that, any of, when you take a real close ethnic group, I think for the most part, they want you to stick with their own. I think that as we grow and evolve, we realize that's kind of ridiculous, especially if you're going to be here, because it's a melting pot. The whole point, the
Yeah,
whole, what America really is just that idea of that you could just end up with anybody, and it doesn't matter who you are. But but within the group, there's still a lot of that, I promise. Especially the more fundamental they are in their beliefs within their culture, you know? So I think I thought that that was an interesting for them to put out there on television, because I don't think a lot of people were saying shit like that at the time, especially, you know, like you said, 2012. That was
Yeah,
something that, um, they weren't saying on Jersey Shore. Let's just put it that way.
yeah, yeah. Um, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Um, what else? I really didn't have much to comment on Jessica, but
Yeah, she
Jessica,
doesn't say she
my,
doesn't
yeah,
she
yeah,
doesn't she's very vanilla at first.
yeah. Very
There's
vanilla.
nothing
That's a
to
good
it.
way to put
Yeah,
it.
she's
Very
nothing
vanilla.
to it at
Yeah,
first. And
yeah,
then from there they go to Dr. Michelle,
yes.
which if I remember correctly, I think my wife and I actually saw the scene with Dr. Michelle. I know that um uh I know I went to Dr. Michelle with my wife without cameras. Like we went there. That was a
Mhm.
therapist, and she's crazier than a shithouse rat. That fucking lady. I mean, she was real nice.
In
She
a
was
good way,
nice,
crazy
but she
or a
was
bad way?
wacky as hell, man. She was wacky as hell. Like I don't know. To each his own again. But most therapists, I've been to a few, man, and a lot of them are fucking wacky themselves. Um, but it was interesting to see them. And my wife makes me laugh when she's upset. I don't know why it is, but when she's
Oh,
crying like that, she makes me laugh. Just because she's usually a pit bull, dude. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I was with her for a while, and we went through some shit. And the only time she ever cried was when she couldn't found out she couldn't go to Coachella. You know what I mean? So to see like when she gets upset,
yeah,
it's rare because she's a force of nature in many ways. But I don't know. I was getting more of a kick out of it. And like I've been in that office, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like, yo, these bitches are crazy. That's all that's the only
yeah.
message I came out of that office with, was these ladies are nuts.
Well,
Um,
that's so funny. That's a total guy's perspective. Cause, and the husband's perspective of his watching his wife, cause I would wonder what mine would say if he saw what I was talking about with, a therapist or whatever. I thought it was just as a topic a topic that's relatable for people to identify with. I thought that topic of feeling trapped and all of the things, the dynamic of the things that Vida says to MJ, which are horrible, are projecting kind of what Vida not being mother material, all of those things that were filtering over on MJ and causing her to question that about herself, I guess, and believe it about herself, which wasn't true. It's
well,
because
again, if stepping outside of it and looking at it as an objective, viewer, I also thought that's great TV, man. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like she was
yeah,
very vulnerable. She
yes,
puts herself out there and she puts herself in an uncomfortable position. And she doesn't pull back. You know what I mean? That
right,
that's a very honest and raw scene. For me, it's personal. So, like
yeah,
I said, I could kind of laugh at it because I've seen them fight. You know what I mean? I
right.
know how crazy they are. Um, but I take crazy chicks, So, but like at the end of the day, I see, I see her, and I know for women out there, it's like, oh wow, that speaks so much to my situation with my mother, or
Yes,
thank God my mother is not like her. You know what I mean? It just, I think for a lot of people watching it, it really opened up a can of worms in a lot of ways that reality TV wasn't doing a lot
right.
of, you know?
And even because my note, literally my note is that was really brave, raw, and relatable of MJ, because I don't think at the time MJ, even though you're filming for a show, you don't think this is gonna have, it's gonna reach the audience, it's gonna be watched over and over and over again, this moment, or any of the crazy moments that they filmed. And so to have this 12 years later, or almost 12 years later, still seeing some of those things and reliving it, it's kind of like, if she'd have known, and you might know the answer, if she'd have known, would she have been so candid and raw in those discussions that were filmed, or would she have been held herself back a little bit?
Well, I don't think she could help but be anything but herself. I don't
Mhm,
think, that's one of the things that attracts me most to her. And it's one of the reason that I think she's so popular within this
mhm,
realm. because she is who she is. I could speak for me personally and say that, when you're being filmed, it's very intense. Like even, especially these type of scenes where they're trying to get, to be vulnerable and they're trying to
Yeah.
get you to open up. And I found with myself personally, I might even go further than normal because I didn't want to watch it back later and regret it and say that I wasn't really honest, or I wasn't really, forthcoming, or I kind of held back. And then I got to kind of explain it to her when she's like, I know, asshole, I live with you. You're mad because you didn't tell her, the whole world doesn't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I get, because I don't want to, like I want to be honest with myself and to like with other people. And so I get that, but with her, I just think that she can't help but be herself. And that's why she's, great at reality TV.
That's true. And
Yeah.
she can be a total mess, having being a shit show, and then having this kind of vulnerable moment in like within the same 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's why she's bipolar. That's why she's bipolar Betty, bro. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, I live with her. That could happen within 20. This is edited. You know what I mean? I'm talking in real life. Within the same 20 minutes, she can fucking be here and there. And whoa, man, did someone else see this? So I get it more than anybody. And then from there we go to the pool party,
Yeah.
right? And you could kind of, well, I've never watched the show, right? But that's a meme, I believe. Like I think I've seen that setting before,
Yeah.
so I kind of know shit's gonna hit the fan at this thing. I
Yeah.
don't really know how it's gonna transpire, but right away, see, Asid Kami keeps coming up short. Like, she talks about that the money don't mean nothing, and I don't care about money, and I'm not like that. But the first thing Reza does is compliment her on her glasses,
Yeah.
which are very expensive glasses, I promise, and it's like she ate that shit up right away. Like, I thank you for catching it. So I don't like the artificial. And I think that, you know, she was right. They got very drunk at that dinner, but I also felt like they were rude to them too. Like I do feel
Yeah.
like it was a two-way street. Like she did, you
You
know,
mean for Omin,
yeah, that toast
the
about his nose, and
yeah.
she might have
Oh, that
fucking
was so inappropriate.
she might be obsessed with noses. Her whole fucking house might be noses. But you just met the person, dude. You don't say to someone who has a big nose, so they already know they have a big. It's not like surprising, like, oh shit, I'm happy to get surgery. You know what I mean? That's just, especially when they've been drinking, because I take offense to that sober.
Right.
I would be a little. These aren't my friends. This is my girlfriend ish. This is like, I would feel uncomfortable sober. Drunk, he took it way better than I did. And,
Yes, he
then they
did.
present,
Yes, he did.
they get worse. I get it. I think that when he said that he's going to smack, Ric Flair, I think that was more in jest. I don't think he was going to smack any of the women at the table. But so I do think that there was two wrongs. I don't think that it was as
Mhm.
simple as they got drunk. Yes, absolutely. And they're wrong for that. Okay. But he owned up to it. He apologized. And I still felt like she wasn't ready, to justify saying, well, I love noses. It's not, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not
Mhm.
up to you. It's up to them. You said it to them. And if they're offended, I don't give a fuck if you love noses or not. You say you're sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It seems like for someone who portrays herself to be so one with the people, and I'm love, and I'm this, and I'm that, that whole interaction was so tone deaf to
She's putting out there.
what she's putting out there, right?
Well,
So
I love you, Kristen. You fucking that was you got there a lot quicker than I did.
yeah.
That's
No,
exactly
yeah,
how I feel about her. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like it's all a fucking act, bro. You know what I mean? And I don't know her like really like that, but that's just how I feel. I feel like,
yeah,
that's why shows like this are great, because it kind of gives you a full show. You know what I mean? You can only be fake so much without some of it being like, that looks like bullshit. But I would really love to follow her around without her knowing, with the fucking camera in the sky. And I feel like you would get such a different representation of the person. And she's the only one on this show that I could say that about. I feel like everybody else is, if you had a secret camera on them, would be more or less who they are. You
Mhm.
know, except maybe Mike, but so like that part just frustrates me a little bit with her,
Yeah.
man. And so it's like,
Yeah.
and Gigi, I feel like she went way over the top again here at this thing, like
Well,
if you
you
want to,
see the moment she gets that look in her eyes, like you see where she goes from like zero to rage. She is unhinged. And that's what I was like, I remember it at the time. Like I remember her having all of these meltdowns and outbursts, but I think now watching it, thinking it's that way through the entire show, like none of the show. There's no evolving and changing, right? It's that way. She is that way through the entire run of the seasons. So,
but it
uh,
frustrates me a little bit too,
yeah,
because I think she's like, you're gonna bark all day, little doggy, you're gonna bite at some point,
yeah,
like she I'll tell you right now, if I'm if I want to get at Asa where she was, I'm getting at Asa and nobody's stopping me. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I felt like it was a lot of hold me back, and
yeah,
just being dramatic for being dramatic. And I didn't like how Asa started to come at my wife, where she said, I don't even want to talk to you. And then she
yeah,
started talking about her. I don't
yeah,
like that shit. I also think that and again, trust me, if my wife is in the wrong or my wife fucks up, it's one of the reasons I'm doing this rewatch. So I'll be the first to tell you, if that's how I see it. But I really felt like she saw it a little bit like I saw it, that and not everybody was right at that dinner. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And to make amends and be better, let's just all apologize and have a good time at this party, as opposed to doubling and tripling down, which I think Asa was definitely. And I think that, Gigi kind of was too. But then, to get confrontational with my wife, I just felt it was unnecessary. I felt that she knew she was wrong. That's how it looked, right? Like the perception was, now she had some blood on her and she don't like that shit. And she wanted MJ to like alleviate that,
yeah.
and my wife wasn't going to do that. When she said, MJ, how many times do I talk about noses? My wife said, never. It was hilarious. It was
Yeah.
hilarious. So, but like I said, and Rez is there too. Rez is there. He kind of fired that engine up, and then he took off. He
Oh,
bounced.
this is the comment I was going to make. I know Reza is stirring the pot this season so far.
Oh
And
hell
I'm
yeah, bro! With
curious
a witch's
as
hat
to,
on in the room, like
yeah,
he fucking.
between well, we see some of it between the real coming into the real estate, firm with them, between Asa and MJ, and then this with Lily. I mean, he is stirring the pot. And so my mental thought was, this term didn't exist back then, but it exists now, of like this self-producing, that
Oh
I'm
yeah,
wondering
he
if
was
he
ahead of his
was
time, dude. He
starting
was
this
ahead of his time. Like
self-producing.
he's a
Yeah,
pioneer, bro. He's fucking
yeah,
Davy Crockett of the
yeah,
reality TV game.
yeah,
He instinctively knew how to do a lot of shit that nowadays, like you said, they're producing, self-producing, or they're doing
yeah,
like if they're doing that, they learned it from watching him. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because
yeah,
yeah, you could see it. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. They're making a fucking reality show, and he's trying to, but that's the dangerous thing too, right? Right now it's cute. It's cute. But you keep pushing that envelope,
yeah,
you
and it's
keep
gonna
doing,
explode, right?
eventually it gets sensational. And next thing you know, you're hiring a private detective to follow them around and fucking, digging their garbage. And, so like, that's why the shows, I guess, run their course at some point. But
Yeah,
I know we kind of jumped over him going out on the date with Adam, but, and I'm
uh,
sorry. I just,
it
it
was
bored me
cute.
to
It was
tears, bro.
fine.
Like
Yeah,
it
it
bored
was
me to
cute.
fucking tears.
Yeah, yeah,
I just rather like, I'd rather watch a butterfly race. You know what I mean? Like it just that was
It was
so
cute. I wrote that was sweet, but it wasn't the most engaging.
yeah, to each their own, man. You know what I mean? Like I said, the Gigi fight, I think you're right. I think that this isn't the last time you're going to see this. I think that you're going to see it, anytime she kind of gets her buttons pushed, she's ready to throw down. But I also think some of it's disingenuous. I don't think she's really ready to throw down. I think that's what she wants her persona to be,
Hmm.
which whatever, man. Everybody's got a persona that they have to live by, I guess. But I thought this was fun. I thought this was a funny episode. I thought that, like I said, it was great to see Shams. It seems like they got some adventures coming next week too.
Yep.
So I feel like they all know. Like I said, once that first season ended, I guarantee you, Reza got everybody on a group text or fucking conference. I was like, "Yo, man, we need to spice this
Gotta
shit
step it
up."
up. Yeah.
Yeah, because you could tell that they're looking to.
Like it was game on. You can definitely tell that it was game on because I started in season two initially, but then of course I was like, oh, let me watch the first season. And then I saw the character development or whatever from that. So, I think that definitely changed. Do you know how much time elapsed between when they stopped filming the first season to the second season?
There was real no lapse. So like they filmed it and we it's funny we just had this conversation um because I wasn't sure because at the end of the first season when they're at that dinner, Reza says to a great 2012,
Hmm.
and that's earlier in the year. Right away, they had cameras back up again and they were filming again. So when you see season two, it's also 2012,
Yeah.
which is rare. You know what I mean? Normally there's a break. And then they actually go on strike, I think, between season 4 and 5. So there's a real long break in real time. But yeah, I think that there wasn't really a big break in the action because, like I said, those first 6 episodes were really just to kind of see if they had something, and then they
Hmm.
put it on, and it was people responded to it, and right away they got picked up for season two, and it's history from there, I guess, as they say.
Yeah. I think you're starting to see too, or I am starting to see this, like it's the cycle of how their characters are throughout the duration of the show, that they all have these moments of being so toxic, like so super toxic. And it's almost like they know that they're doing it, but they just can't stop themselves in the moment.
Well, it's
Right?
arrested development, man. You
Yeah,
know what I
it's just
mean?
like,
They're all very very immature adults, big babies at heart. You know what I mean? They want what they want when they want it, and now you've given them a television show.
yes.
You know what I mean? Like they just think of like the behavior. Like if you've been told, because a lot of the behavior, including my wife, first one I'll say it, a lot of the behavior that you'll get will sometimes be juvenile, will sometimes be, inappropriate.
Mhm.
And if they've been acting like that their whole life, the message would be that, good things aren't going to come from it, right? But not in this case. They gave them a fucking reality show,
Right.
dude. So it's like you double down, dude. Whatever you're doing, even if you thought you were going to change, you're like, wait a second, the universe is telling me I'm on the right track. So
Right.
I think that
That's a
that's
good
why.
point. I didn't think about that. The show's over if they all evolve and deal with their trauma and
Yeah, for sure, man.
be less
For
violent
sure,
and
man.
not
God
breathe.
forbid they found a fucking Gigi, a shrink that works, and
Yeah.
she fucking does problem resolution with you. You know what I mean? Like, let's sit down, let's write down our feelings. You know what I mean? Shit's funny. They're not getting season 8. I tell you that.
Yeah.
Season 9, wherever it went. So I think there's an element that they just, like we want to see some
Yeah.
improvement. Let's not get nuts. And fortunately for them, most of this cast didn't really improve much. They pretty much stayed who they
Right.
were till the very end.
Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, I love it. It's good TV. And like I had forgotten how fun it was to watch them until you start watching them back and you're like, these are real people, man.
Yeah, they're fucking nuts. They're nuts. They're nuts. They're nuts. But I listen, Kristen, you were great. I really enjoyed having you on. We got a lot of these episodes. Hopefully, you want to come back and do another
Oh,
one.
I would love to.
Great perspective.
Yeah.
I enjoyed talking this out with you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And you got anything to say
You
before we
too.
part ways?
Um, sure, I would love to come back. And I have some words for you if you keep doing this through all the other seasons. Season 6, man. Like, I got some words for you come season 6.
Okay, no problem. We'll have to get you back for season 6 then. We
Well, you
definitely have
do
to
it
do it.
sooner. But I was just, I remember there's certain things that I remember specifically, that interactions, and I'm like, man, that guy. Well, both of you. I will say but you and MJ, your interactions, I'm like, man, I'm so glad that you guys are together.
Yeah,
It
because
was
I don't
touch
think
and
anybody
go.
else would
It
take
was
us
touch and
seriously.
go.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Absolutely. With that, man, thank you so much, Kristen. You have a great
Anytime.
rest of your day,
You
okay?
too. I'll
Bye
see you
bye.
later. Bye.